is a webinar I'm really, really excited for. And what I want to highlight on the webinar is, first of all, we'll have a Q&A. So for any questions you have, try to post in the Q&A. Q&A is not the chat. So if you see on the bottom, put it into the Q&A chat. Put in the Q&A, and then after, what we'll do is we'll go for 30 minutes, and after that, we'll address all the questions, and we'll make sure to answer every single one of them. So one of the things which I'm really excited about this is that, and everybody, what I would say these days is very busy with AI, right? I've talked to a lot of business owners, and me myself, lost a lot of sleep in AI, and everybody is always asking like, um, how how can my business be more efficient with AI, right? People are looking for AI consultants. People are asking, oh, people taking AI consultants saying, could you put my whole business in AI? Everybody's like very busy. How can my business go in AI? Everybody's trying to see like how they can streamline and do more stuff with AI. So the thing that and I kind of had the same question as well. And when it came to bookkeeping and certain reports, um, when it came to bookkeeping and certain reports, one of the questions were, how could we be more beneficial in terms of AI? Like how could AI help you out in terms of reporting, in terms of questions? Like where does AI come into? And what I always tell people, one of the things that I think have helped me a lot in business is that one thing that I always do is every like 6 months, what I always do is that we always look back in business and we say, what have we done that has made us better? Like for example, if you implement a new product, right? What you want to do is 5, 6 months down the line, say, how did this product well? How did this perform? Did this actually bring us certain results, right? And the same question goes to AI. It might be very cool, it might be very fancy. And I'll be a little blunt. I spoke to a business owner who basically explained to me a whole dashboard that he built with AI. He's like, this is crazy. And the dashboard was to understand how much shipping he paid last year to how much shipping he paid this year. What was the difference? He hired a new logistics manager and he wanted to make sure that his shipping cost is going down, right? So the real question is like, that's really a bookkeeping question, right? You can just look in your QuickBooks, see how much you paid shipping this year, how much you paid shipping last year. That's not a reason to build a whole AI dashboard, right? So my real question is, where do we see the value in AI? Where does AI save us time? How does AI make us efficient? And that's really what this webinar is about, and that's really where we're going to dive into. So let's begin. We have Moshe in the house. Moshe has been helping us tremendously a lot with building out and been working, as you guys know, he works with a lot of our customers, and he's been a lot working out in this. Just gonna go share my screen a minute. Um, okay. Let's see, this is just given me. Um, Give me just 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah? All right. Okay. So let's dive into this. So what are the things that we have, done, and part of the theme of what we posted, and of what it was is stop reading reports and start adding questions. And this is really where we have seen the power of AI. This is really where we have seen what a lot of stuff I've been doing. So as you know, um, ConnectBooks, we've been doing bookkeeping for almost I mean, I myself have been doing bookkeeping close to 15 years. ConnectBooks, we've been around 8, 9 years. We have a bunch of different reports. We consult with sellers all day. And one of the challenges always is that, business owners, a lot of people don't have too much patience, including myself. And what happens is that you look at this report, it's kind of boring. And the question always is like, what do you make out of all this, right? I'll say the same thing on this webinar. What are you going to make out of this, right? The point is, you look at a report and you're like trying to understand it better. That's really where we have seen the power of AI. But one thing is very important with AI, and this is what I explain a lot, is that AI is a lot about the underlying data, right? So just going into, let's say, ChatGPT or Claude and asking a bunch of questions, I always say you have to know where they take it from. You have to make sure they have the proper sources. And obviously, what ChatGPT and Claude have been doing a lot is that they have been segmenting certain industries to pull from certain sources. They don't just crawl the web these days. But the same thing is with your data, right? Your data has to be in a proper format that when you feed it to the AI, it understands how to read it, it understands how to calculate it, and then based on that, it could, dig into it and do deep analysis. So let's see. So our new thing is called Crunch, and what I'm going to try to do is dive in a little bit more to deep examples of where we have seen tremendous value with our AI tool. So one of the things where, let's say, Crunch, first thing is what we could do is number one, we could analyze the whole business, right? We could run across Amazon, Walmart, Shopify, TikTok, from QuickBooks, the cost of goods sold. We can basically, anything that's in ConnectBooks, our AI tool can analyze and it can pull up. That means to say ad spend, inventory, fees, sales, stuff like that. So here's a couple of questions, what we have seen, and this is where I want to, where we're going to really introduce also something called like a community, which people are going to be able to submit their best prompts, and that's going to become available to everybody. So here's the thing, 1,240 sellers already asking, my profit is down, versus last month, where did it go? So this is really, the idea what I always tell people is you want to ask AI tricky questions. I'm going to give you one trick question. It's not on the slide, but like, let's say, for example, you could tell it, take product X, analyze it over the last year, tell me which month made the most money, and then tell me why. When you go in that direction, like for a human to analyze, right? If let's say I was to do that job, right? So if I want to understand which week made the most money, then I would run something called in ConnectBooks a profit and loss comparison. I would break it down week over week, and then I would have to go through each week and sort out which week made the most money. Now, when I made the most money, I would have to start taking that week, comparing it to the week before, or the month before, or 3 months before, and then seeing, what was the difference, right? So that's really the power of AI, right? Because a human to analyze this amount of data would probably take me a good 2 hours. With AI, I can do it in 5 seconds. So this goes back to what I was saying before. We already have reports, right? We have profitability rescue. We have all the data in front of us. The challenge is, okay, now when you have it, you have to start digging into it on a very deep level, and you have to have the patience and you have to have the stamina to like sit down now, 2 hours, shut your phone, and just like dig deep into it and really understand. And that's really the power of AI. And that's really what we're going to dig into is a lot of what we've seen in the bookkeeping field, and really is a lot of analyzation. That's really where the AI is very, very powerful because once the data is structured, the data is laid in a proper way. The data is laid in a proper way where you could feed it to the AI. And if you have ConnectBooks set up the right way, which I believe most 95% of our clients have, you should be able to feed the data is being fed the right way to the AI, then it can answer all these questions. So let's say, for example, which 10 SKUs dropped the month and dropped this month in profit versus last month and what caused it, right? That's something more of an analyzation questions, right? You want to know, okay, which SKUs, dropped the most profit. Now, I even tell you a different story that I had with another customer that I was working on, which was we have a certain goal, and our goal is that we want to have a gross margin of 25%. So this company does like around 800,000 sales on a monthly basis, top line, meaning before any Amazon fees. And then after all the Amazon fees and shipping, we usually net around 200,000. That's before the overhead. Now, what happened was last month we netted around 15%. And basically the company pretty much broke even. So because we knew our metrics, we knew that in order for us to make X amount of profit, which was based on goals, we need to hit at least a 25% gross margin. And one of the things were we didn't hit at 25%. So then the question is why not? And there was a lot of different reasons. It wasn't a one stop shop, meaning we're carrying the 300 SKUs. So some SKUs that were profitable, they were at 15%, but they used to be at 25, 30%. So the question is what changed? And there's a lot of reasons what changed. But for humans to dig through each one of these products, you're talking about hours of work. Versus when you go into the AI, you say, okay, our goal is to hit 25% margin. In January, we did 25%. Last month, we only did 10%. What has changed? What has, how did things move and how did it go? That's really where we see it very powerful in AI. This is also another very good question. Q4 storage rates are coming in, right? So basically, I know everybody's excited for Q4, but some people, Q4 is not the best season, like you all know, whoever's dealing with the season, like whoever's dealing with Christmas items, Q4 is going to be straight through the roof and you guys are working a lot of cash. And then some people, have stuff that are not so seasonal, they're more like essential products, which those sell more on a consistent basis throughout the year. Now, Q4 storage fees is 3 times the regular rate, meaning to say if you're paying every month, let's say 10K, Q4 you'll pay 30,000. So then the real question is like certain products you might want to do removal orders, you might want to liquidate. So what I've done, me personally, we have worked with clients in the past is that we sat down and we, let's say, would pull a report for the last 3 months and then go over the profit of the product. Then what we would do is we would take the storage fee, triple it up. So we would say, okay, last 3 months, let's say this product made, let's say, $1,000 profit, and then storage fees, let's say, was let's say, I don't know, 500, right? If you triple the storage fees, will the products make the same amount of money? That was something that we used to do manually. This took me 2 hours. That was around 2 hours of work, meaning I had to pull all the reports, all the sales, then I had to figure out the individual storage fees, then I had to take the storage fees and triple them, and then recalculate the profit based on the estimated sales to know what will I make if the storage fees are that number, right? This is something AI can do in 3 seconds. And this is really very powerful because you can just go on a prompt saying, hey, these products, which products for Q4 storage fees, take my storage fees, triple the price, based on my sales velocity, will I make money? And for the people who have been using ConnectBooks the last 5 years, you can do it even more powerful. You could say, look at my last year's sales, and let's say we assumed the same type of sales, and will we still make money based on that? I mean, you could technically run a profit and loss from last year, but the goal is more where you want to like mix and match certain data. Let's say certain margins are up, but not enough to avoid the Q4 storage fee. So really what I'm trying to come back for is a lot of analyzation of where you want to analyze and you want to just be ahead of the game. And what I could just say one thing, running ConnectBooks the last 8 years, I would say the number one method to success is just staying profitable. Yeah, obviously everybody wants to grow, everybody wants to launch new products, everybody wants to do one thing, but I can tell you one thing. These customers that I work hand in hand with, whoever's been profitable has stayed through the game, and whoever is not profitable eventually had to go because nobody has unlimited cash. And the real goal you want to try to do is try to make sure you're the most profitable possible, and you want to dig deep in your products because this is your core business. So let's go in a little further. Um, okay, so this is another question what you could do. You could tell scan your items and that were profitable. So this is also a very interesting story we actually have with a customer, and this is a real story that we have. By the way, whatever I'm sharing, we have full permission to share. So this customer basically started using our AI tool. And I asked him, can you give me any feedback of how our AI tool is going? And he told me, he's like crazy, I'm blown away with it. So I asked him, what was he blown away with? He said that he took a product, he told the AI, look at my catalog from 3 years ago, right? So obviously we're selling 5 products, this story is not relevant, but I'm talking for people, have big catalogs. This guy's a catalog over 1,000 items, or you may have a catalog from 500 items. There's so many items that you're buying, there's so many items that you're selling. What this guy done is he told the ConnectBooks, the Crunch, the ConnectBooks AI tool is that look back 3 years ago, okay? Find me a product that was selling and I made money but then for some odd reason I stopped selling, right? So a lot of times everyone knows Amazon is it's a crazy animal, right? And a lot of times there's different reasons on why we stop selling certain products, right? So what we have told the AI to do was saying, hey, go back 3 years ago, find products, that I've been selling, good products, and for some odd reason we can't sell them anymore, and give me back that list. So it scanned through the last 3 years, give me a list of like 15 good items, and you can tell even more, like products above 15% margin, right? Products at good margin. And let's say the issue was you're waiting for Amazon to sell out, or let's say you had competition or whatever it was. Let's say competition is gone and you long forgot about this SKU, but maybe now you could bring in a product. And this is something where we have seen people really take instant, like, meaning you could instantly make more money because, and this goes back to the human, like where do we see AI being better than a human, right? We all know that at this point now, where AI is gonna, but I heard a great saying from Hector Garcia. He's like, whatever I say today is only accurate today because in 6 months from now, we don't know where AI is going to be. And I'm going to say the same thing, right? We don't know where AI is going to be a year from now. We might have robots all over the world. Who knows? But the real question is, as a point in time today, right? There's one thing that AI does is you still need the human to do the judgment call. You still need some human judgment in it. But where AI can do it is if you give it the data the right way, you tell them to analyze it, you tell them what your problem is, you tell them what you want the solution is, and you give them the right structure, it could scan it through so fast and help you and give you all that. I give you a different example. Me personally, as a bookkeeper, one of the things I've seen AI very powerful, like let's say going through bank transactions. I mean, that has never been a big pain for us. Meaning, we know how to categorize stuff. We could run a rule based on descriptions and based on different stuff. That is not taking our company and up productivity 10 times. But what I have seen AI be very powerful is let's say I need to build out a very complicated journal entry and I have everything. I just don't have I need the brain cells to like sit down and say, okay, this goes here, this goes here, this here. So I like I take all my reports, I upload them, I tell them this is what I have, this is what I need, and you prepare it to me. And then it does it massively. Um, okay. So this is another story where another customer found, $250,000 a year, right? And and this goes back to the story I said before, which basically they looked back, they told them you had your basically 11 forgotten winners in a 1,000 catalog. We relisted this product, right? So basically found 11 great products that used to make a lot of money. We relisted all these products. And then once we relisted all these products, we already started to make more. So anybody, have old data that's very important and you want to have the AI scan all that. Now this is something very interesting case where basically so what you also want to treat the AI to is understand the seasonality, right? So obviously in Q4, you're going to be making sales go up. So one of the things you want to do is that where the AI basically helped the person analyze was that um they had certain amount of stock, let's say as of August or not August, let's say October, September, October, where basically it wanted to make sure that it has enough stock for the season, but they were thinking about making a removal order. So here was the opposite case. Customer had a lot of stock in Amazon, think of doing a removal order because it was incurring storage fees. But basically what the AI told him was that last year, December, you ran out of stock. So then let's rather leave these products in here. We might incur additional storage fee, but you want to keep this for December because in December you're gonna have a lot more sales and you're gonna stock up, right? So that's kind of like another thing is we're like, and this is actually also a very interesting thing what I've seen AI be very good for. And actually, we have used this a lot in a bookkeeping company. I call them the 2 o'clock mistakes, 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So I'm usually work very late. If I'm working 2 o'clock in the morning and like it's just not matching up. And then the next day you come into the office and boom, in 2 seconds you figure it out, right? So sometimes working late is not always the best because your mind is not there. But with AI, we have found that a lot of times picking up like stupid, dumb, silly mistakes, like in such a case, like where you can say, hey, like analyze this trend, tell me where it's off, or tell me where the problem is. Like these are things that I was able to figure out really fast. But in this case, like the person wasn't thinking, right? They had very little, they had stock in Amazon, sales were not well, want to do a removal order, and he was like saying, hey, Q4 is up, it's around the corner. Last year ran out of stock, so still keep it in stock. So this is really like, how do you want to test it, right? So you want to open up ConnectBooks. On the sidebar, you'll see it says crunch, and then you want to paste in the prompt. Now we have a lot of saved prompts as we have done there. And what you want to do is my profit is down, which are top, these are the top 10 SKUs. For example, which SKU did I drop the price on and without any lift in units? Meaning to say, and this is also one thing that I've seen a lot of times. I actually had another story with a different client that was selling a certain product. They were selling it originally for like $17 a unit. Now, what happened was in that scenario, the owner is not so involved. So he's basically an employee who runs a company. Um, but he's not just an employee, he's like a real good manager. And what happened was one month, the last month, the profitability dipped a lot. One of the main reasons what happened basically was the price was listed at 17 and they sold it for $17 a unit in January, and then in July they sold it for 13.50. So basically it was a $3.50 price discount. Now, if you take $3.50 times 4,500 times like 1,500 units, it's around like $5,000 in profit. Now everything stayed the same. That was just like a you just like what I always tell people, if you pull down the price, you're just shaving the profit, right? And most of the times, I'm a stronger believer, which I've seen better results of people selling less and having more profit than basically moving a lot, but not making so much money. The challenge is when you move a lot, you tie up your cash very fast. If you move less, you have more profit. You have to just sometimes slow down a little bit. But when you slow down, you price it right and you make sure, to go accordingly. So, for example, if you looked over the financials the month before, it wasn't so easy to determine where the problem was, right? But with AI, you can say, hey, like, how did this product perform? Or how did these products perform compared to January? In 2 seconds, it's going to tell you, okay, in January, you were selling it at $17 a unit and you actually sold 1,500. And this month you're selling it at $13 a unit, you sold 1,700, but you lost 5,000 in profit. So this is we're going to go through other questions here that other sellers had asked. Profit swings, like let's say one SKU went from $66,000 in a net loss in a single quarter, right? So then there was one of the things were that had a huge removal fees or like this is stuff. The idea more is that you can like dig into certain products, right? Let's say even margin leaks, right? Unit cost went up double. Sometimes costs go up, but people don't increase the price. If your cost goes up, you can't want to increase the price. With vendor, I know it's much harder, but with Seller Central, you should be able to move up your price. Obviously, you want to make sure you don't lose the buybacks and all the other stuff, but the successful sellers don't they lose sleep over it and they know how to do it in order to protect their margins. And what's very important, and I say in ConnectBooks, is constantly to protect your margins. And then the next thing, the same thing is ad spend. Ad spend, what I always say is like, a hire a new agency, are you making more money? I don't care about more sales. Are you making more profit? You want to make sure, right? So in ConnectBooks, you can run a bunch of different comparison reports. It's going to take you a lot of time to analyze it. With AI, just put in the prompt, say, hey, I got a new agency. Am I doing better or worse in this month versus the month before? So here, this is actually an interesting scenario. Another thing that people also did is we call it sunk cost. So sunk cost basically is sometimes is a product that, let's say you have $100,000 worth of stock from product A. Okay. Now you already paid that $100,000. You're not getting that money back. Okay. So now the question is, what's the best way out of it, right? So let's say, for example, if I'm selling a product on Amazon, let's say my sales are $200,000, okay? Let's say Amazon takes off half, 100,000 in fees. So if I get $100,000, then basically means I broke even, right? But let's say have a very hard time selling it, so I move down the price, right? So if you move the price down, let's say instead of selling it for 200,000, I'm selling the whole lot, let's say for 150, right? So then I get back. Then let's say Amazon takes off half the fees, $75,000. So really, I'm at a $25,000 loss, right? Because the product cost me 100 and I got back 75. But one thing you have to always remember is that when when you already paid for the goods and this is not a performing product, it's just incurring more and more fees that's sitting in FBA. So the question is, in terms of the cost of product, what we do is we look at it as a sunk cost. The sunk cost means you paid. They're saying we don't cry over spilled milk. And you don't want to look back at that. If there's a product you're going to liquidate, you're going to discontinue, you want to try to tell, and this is what we tell the AI, and we told them, these products, like basically cost of goods sold, don't calculate because it's a sunk cost. We paid for it anyway. We're not planning on bringing in the product again. What's our best way out of here? And that's really something where the AI can help you a lot because basically, it doesn't go, it doesn't look so much at the products. Meaning to say that the idea really is that if you have $100,000 of stock laying, the question is how much, what's the best you can get out of it without incurring fees. And sometimes it might be to lower the price. Yeah, you might lose $25,000. On paper, it's going to show a loss of 25,000. But if you're cashing out 75, then now you have $75,000 to buy new inventory. So that's also something very useful. Basically, instead of running a bunch of different Excel formulas, exporting to Excel and a bunch of calculations, you just prompt it to AI and you tell them to do this. Also about, about this is actually we spoke about this one before, but the idea really was more like in terms of like, let's say you get stuck. I mean to say this product, you're in August, the question is, should you keep it, right? So in this case, it's telling you that in December you might run out of stock. So that's why, you want to try to you don't want to liquidate these SKUs because you want to keep this inventory for December. So person just wasn't thinking forward, then the AI can do that much faster and move into more. Okay, we are hitting time. I will continue another few minutes. If anybody in the meantime has questions, please put it in there. Okay. So, this is really another thing, like what's the return rate, like basically, the idea really is you change around certain settings in your returns. You want to understand, better, is it increasing profit or decreasing profit? And, it goes all back to the same idea of, what we're saying is you want to try to analyze certain products. This is something very important. Yeah, the meeting is recorded. Our meeting is recorded. This is something very important is that in ConnectBooks, you'll see under the right-hand side something called settings. Okay. Settings is that you can tell it different stuff. And first of all, these two parts of settings. These like static settings, like what's a healthy ROI, 30%, hide slow sellers, time period, cost source, like what cost it should take, and how to group the products by pyrenees and SKU or stuff like that. Now, another thing is also we have instructions over here. And we will be adding on more and more stuff to the settings. And as we get more advanced, we'll be adding on more stuff. So one of the things is that, with AI, I always say it's all about the context. It's all about the instructions. It's all you feed it, right? So it can decide that a healthy ROI can be 50%, or you can tell it, no, for me, a healthy ROI is 30%. And I've seen certain cases, people have certain use cases, why for them certain stuff makes sense. So the point is that you want to teach your AI in terms of, you want to teach your AI, you want to train it and teach it on what it should focus on and how it should respond. So this is really where you should take your time, put in instructions and, set it up the right way. And then let's say AI is an ongoing process. As you make it smarter, you want to, keep on training it. And you also want to keep on updating the instructions. So you want to keep on constantly updating the instructions so that it understands exactly how to do it. Like, let's say, for example, I was working with a customer and they had two types of different types of product lines. Like they have products that they were, let's say, bringing from overseas, that product they were sourcing locally. So products from overseas, the way they did in Connect was they made different categories. So they had overseas and then local. So the overseas product, let's say for that, we only wanted a 15% margin, but for the local product, we wanted a 25% margin. Why? Because the local products went to a warehouse. And if it went to a warehouse, we had more expenses and overhead versus the overseas products just went directly to FBA. So that's something very good that you could put into the instructions. You can say, okay, these products coming from overseas, or for example, they have different lead times, or you want to say, if you want to help with the forecast, you want to say, will I have enough products, forecasting for the next year or stuff like that. You want to give it the instructions where you can separate it in a bunch of different ways. All right. Okay. So then you could say like, you can give it also instructions like say good morning. And when I say good morning, give me yesterday's sales profit and my top three movers. So it can give you back. That's more like I call it a toy. But basically you can like customize it with prompts and say like, hey, when I say this, give me back and give it back to me every single day. So you don't have to start running reports and digging through all the different products. And just to go back a second, like top movers doesn't always mean a top mover could be like, doesn't mean you always make the most profit, right? If you run a profit and loss report, you want to see which products are making the most profit, then you have to sort it and know it's the most profit. Like you could say which products had a jump in profit, right? That's where comparison comes in. You got to look at the day before, see how much profit you made the day before and how much profit you made today, right? Let's say you're working on a certain product and you're trying to increase the profits, right? So you want to make sure that it's jumping accordingly. These are things that the AI can definitely help you a lot. So then we have something called a dashboard. I don't know if people looked at it, but you have on the top crunch, and then you have a dashboard. The dashboard, you can make custom tiles. And on the custom tiles, you could write in a prompt in natural language in English, and it's going to just build it out. So for example, let's say you have a particular product that you're working on, and you want to measure the performance over time. Instead of every time just running a prompt, you could go to the dashboard section, put in a tile for that particular product, and then you can say, this product, I want to see how much money it's been making, let's say month over month for the last year or the last week, day over day, and you could track your metrics accordingly. That's a very powerful thing you could do. You could also have multiple dashboards, not just one, and each dashboard can be very customizable. This is something that's coming. I believe that, I think we'll have it by the end of the week, which is basically crunching your inbox. So you could schedule a prompt. Let's say you want to get into email. You want to wake up in the morning, read an email, and see, okay, what was our profit yesterday? What things are going. Um, you know, let's say, for example, we have a couple of samples here. Yesterday, $12,000 in sales, 3,000, 4,000 in profit. Now, where I really see this very powerful, and this is usually the way we work with customers, is we try to take the catalog and break it down. Like, for example, if somebody has a big catalog, we'll break it down, let's say, to 10, 15 categories, take category by category section and work through the margins to make sure it's where we need to be. So one of the things you want to do is you could, like, let's say, for example, I'm working in category X. I would want to get a briefing every morning. Okay, how is category X working? Like, are we up? Are we down? So the benefit of this is with natural language, you could just make any type of, report you want to get, and then you can just schedule to come to your inbox and it could come to you on a day-to-day basis. All right, so this is the end. And we're saying don't guess, just know. As you have ConnectBooks is in Crunches installed in your sidebar, and it's available. If you don't have it available, just reach out to support on the chat and we'll make it available for you. We do have a couple of questions. Let's see. How does AI know which items are worth liquidating and therefore it shouldn't calculate cost of goods sold? So the question is, how does the AI know? Let me hear. Moshe, what do you want to chime in a second?
First of all, hi everyone, and I do want to chime in first to give a brief overview about Crunch and how is it different than any other AI tool. So as Nachman mentioned briefly, AI is only as good as you teach it. So myself and Nachman and our CTO, we've been working the last couple of months to make Crunch the most knowledgeable e-commerce AI tool. And the main thing that we worked on is the context. The last 4 months, we worked on the context that the tool should be able to understand what is an Amazon seller worried about, what are all the Amazon metrics that sellers want to look at. And I would say currently we're up to 30,000 lines of information that Crunch has that we built. So like this, when you ask any question, including the liquidation question, it should be familiar with a lot of the metrics and information, and it knows which reports to run to get the information from. So the way it's different than, let's say, a regular Claude or ChatGPT chat is that it has the context that is specific to e-commerce, and it has access to probably 40 or 50 different reports that it could run simultaneously and get the answers right away in front of you. versus if you have to run it manually or if you have to figure out which report has the data yourself and then export it and input it into your own AI tool, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. Versus with Crunch, you can just try it out yourself and you're going to see that it has so much knowledge and it could figure it out. You're going to be surprised by the amount of information it has, and you should just try it out. And if it doesn't have certain information, let us know and
So,
we'll be able to
Moishi,
update it.
but let's go back to the question. So the real question is how do we know which items can we liquidate? Means how would Crunch know if this product is worth liquidating and it shouldn't count it? I mean, the way I have seen it is that I think you have to prompt it that the costs are like cost of goods sold is something that it's already paid. Like that's the way I did it in the past, where I told them, hey, cost of goods sold is sunk cost, so don't calculate, meaning, and that's more of like a cash flow question, because if we're not calculating cost of goods sold, then that's already it's something from meaning it's something from the past. But the question is there a way particular that you know if it knows how it's worth liquidating, or we don't have a proper answer on that?
So as you said, in the past, you had to instruct it to take into account that the cost is already paid, the concept of sunk cogs. By now, it already has that context. So it's going to analyze what's the best way for you to get rid of the slow seller item. So if you have an item that is a slow seller, you have multiple options. You have liquidation, removal, disposal, um,
And does know
lowering
all
the
the fees
price.
does it
So
know the
I,
fees
so it probably wouldn't know all the fees, but if you ever paid removal fees, it could try figuring out, okay, you removed 100 units, you paid $100 in fees. It comes up with ways of figuring out the fees, and if it doesn't know, it's going to tell you that it doesn't know.
hmm
But
hmm
it does have all the options available. It knows about liquidation,
Right.
disposal,
So what I
removal,
really
lowering
think
price.
is what I think people will have to do is give a little more context, meaning they will have to say maybe like, you know, don't calculate cost of goods sold, what is my best options or which products are. You might have to give a little bit more context, but we're definitely training it and definitely adding on more and more information. As Moshe said earlier, what is our AI better than just using regular Claude or ChatGPT? Very simple. We have over 30,000 lines of code being fed to our AI in order to understand the data behind it so it knows how to make the right decisions. Let's see, does Crunch only work information as the person who wrote QuickBooks, but probably meant ConnectBooks. So at this point, yes, Crunch will only work with the information that's in ConnectBooks. Here, Martin Garfinkel posted a question. Tried using the AI to help me calculate for seasonal items, post seasons. What is the best strategy would be? Either dump, remove, or keep an FBA for next season. And then he wrote to do this, it would need a cost of removal. So storage fees and nodes, that it for sure has. And it would be able to, the next selling period, it would also know, it could look back historical, it can know that as well. Long-term storage fee, it also know. I'm not sure about removal fees, we definitely have, meaning to say anything that's in the ConnectBooks database is being fed to the AI, so it understands how to analyze that based on that data. And this might be an issue if, let's say, it doesn't know what the removal fees are or it doesn't have it, then maybe you tell it. You say like, hey, here, or let's say you can say, oh, I downloaded a spreadsheet. We could upload spreadsheets to ConnectBooks, to the Claude, no. I mean, to
Currently,
Crunch. No, so you can't upload a spreadsheet, but what you could do is you can like maybe copy paste in what you can do is like take the spreadsheet and say, here are the removal fees that Amazon's going to charge, copy paste that into Crunch, and then tell Crunch, this is what it is, and analyze it based on those stuff. Does ConnectBooks integrate to Shopify as well? Yes, we do integrate to Shopify. I don't know for Shopify we have the sales, the fees, the returns, the promotions. We also have Google Ads integration for Shopify as well. But I'm not sure if I don't think we have any like conversions on Shopify versus for Amazon. We do have all that information, but I would say is whatever we don't have, go to our feature page, like the roadmap, just submit a feature, and when it gets enough, what we do is we look always at that page, and what gets a lot of votes, that's what we build. Another question somebody has here: can you generate in a graph? In general, the answer is yes. You have to go to the dashboard and just build out the custom dashboards. If you can challenge results and recommendations, yes, you definitely could. For example, the story with the sunk cost. When I prompted originally, it was giving me one advice, and then when I told it, "Hey, no, these costs were already paid," it actually turned the case around. So, yes, definitely could. Um, let's see, we have another few questions in here. will AI be able to tell me when is the season for each item? I
That's a
believe.
good question. We actually instructed the AI to the Crunch tool that it should try to figure out just based on the description of the item and then based on the dates of the day of the month we're in to figure out if it's a seasonal item. So, for example, if we have a lot of sellers selling seasonal items. One of them is selling Halloween stuff, and it knows when Halloween is, so it's going to tell you when to reorder. And also, if one of the slides that Nachman had was a seller had 3,000 units in stock of a specific item, and in the last 60 days, he only sold 15 units. The seller wanted to get rid of it, but Crunch told him don't because Halloween is coming up in a few months. And if you get rid of it now, you're not going to have, you usually sell, last year you sold 5,000 units of the item during Halloween. So rather keep it. The storage fee is only going to be $6,000. The revenue is going to be this amount. The profit is going to be this amount. I was able to save him a lot of money just by knowing and being aware of the seasonal item. So it should be able to figure out if it's a seasonal item or not just by the description and being aware of which date we're in. But if it's something really specific, you can obviously tell Crunch that this item I usually sell out in March or in April, but more general items, it's going to be able to figure out just by reading the description of the item.
Cool. Okay, next question is what's the status of NetBooks having an MCP connected to Claude? So we're currently working on that. It's something in progress. Probably something maybe around between Q3, end of Q3, beginning Q4, we should have it. Where basically the idea is that you can connect your Claude account directly to ConnectBooks, and then you can pull the data from ConnectBooks directly into Claude. And you can build on top of that. Um, Next question was, we run both Shopify and Amazon. How does it how does it pull Amazon data, including inventory? Yeah, so as long as ConnectBooks is set up right, meaning our AI knows how to understand what a store is, understands whether it's Amazon store or Shopify store, it knows all those stuff. Those are the basics training that we did originally. So basically, if you're using ConnectStack, it can also read inventory reports from ConnectStack. If it's separated by warehouses, it can read that as well. So what I'm going to say, what I said earlier, AI is just as good as the data gets. And it's actually interesting. I saw recently a bunch of companies are like trying to buy data, right? Everybody's trying to buy data. Or the story with Amazon is buying now a couple of thousand books to train their AI model. But the point is, it's all about the data behind it. So if your ConnectBooks is set up correctly, you're using also ConnectStack, then the AI will be very powerful on top of that. Um, does it does this API have capabilities for QuickBooks? I mean, we do integrate to QuickBooks, but our AI is not from QuickBooks, meaning the AI is more meant to analyze product level detail, which at this point, we don't recommend tracking product level detail in QuickBooks. So what we recommend is that you track your product level detail in ConnectBooks and the AI can analyze it on top of that. Um, Next question is, does it integrate or replace Microsoft? Well, I'm not sure what Microsoft BC means, but no, we don't integrate at this point with Microsoft. Um, If we have financing and loans in the system, no, we don't have any financing and loans at this point. Very simple. We're all about making money. We're not about borrowing money. Those days are over. Interest rates are through the roof, but what I could say, and I said in the middle, one thing in my journey over the last 8 years is whoever stays profitable, whoever focuses, not just stays, puts a focus, makes a number one priority, usually in the game for the long run. All right, we are hitting time, and we appreciate
I
every
want to
single.
add one thing, Nachman, if you don't mind. Just want to summarize what Crunch is. So, as you guys know, ConnectBooks has a lot of reports, and sometimes if you combine all the data from the reports, we're talking about literally of millions of data points, literally millions. Take, for example, a comparison report. If you would run a comparison report for every single day, for every single item of the last 5 years of data, we're talking about hundreds of millions of pieces of data. This is just one report, the P&L. Then add up the ledger report, the restock report, the aging report. The aging report alone every single day has about 20 or 30,000 cells just for one day, one report. So for a seller to go and try to figure out his numbers, his basic profit obviously runs a P&L. But the second he has to start diving in and try figuring out why or anomalies or things that he wouldn't normally pick up, that's when it gets super complicated. Obviously, the data exists, but to start digging in and trying to figure out like what's causing certain things or anomalies, it could take days or weeks to figure out with exports and VLOOKUPs. And now with Crunch, it could do it in a few seconds. And it knows which reports to run. And the good thing about it is that it's contained and trained very well. It's not just a free AI tool that you can just download and just import an Excel sheet and it's going to start making things up. It's trained very well and it tells you what it doesn't know. And you can also update it. So if you have a specific case in your business, you can just tell it, save it, and it's going to know like any question going forward, it's going to have that context. So the good thing about Crunch is that it takes something that would take you hours, weeks, or months to figure out, or even after the fact, if you already lost the money. And with Crunch, you can literally do it in a few seconds.
All right, thank you so much, Moshi. First of all, thanks for all the effort and the hard work you put into this, and especially a lot of training that the ConnectBooks team has behind the scenes spent not days, not weeks, months building this all out. And we hope this is going to help a lot of sellers make money. And we definitely have seen people make a lot more money by utilizing it. One last question somebody's asking here. If we start to use ConnectBooks, basically somebody's using ConnectBooks already for 2 years. Basically, it has the AI has access to your full ConnectBooks data. So if you started 2 years ago, it will have 2 years. If you started 5 years ago with us, it will be able to scan the last 5 years. But I want to thank everybody for joining, and we really appreciate you all coming on to this webinar. And we hope that you all will be able to make use out of our new AI tool. And definitely one thing what I really want is everybody to make more money. The goal is to be profitable, and the goal is just to keep on climbing. If you have any questions or you want to understand better our crunch, the best way to contact us is just go to the website, go on the live chat, just reach out to us, and we'll do our best to help you. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for joining.